Hey gamers, and today we're going to be talking about Sushang. You know the character that says Rise and says that word that starts with a P and ends with an S for their ultimate?
Rise, Phoenix!
So yeah, we're going to be talking about her and her big cock and basically how to build her and everything like that today. So yeah, Sushang, she's really good actually. Honestly, I've been really enjoying my gameplay with Sushang. She's kind of like a mini Seele in a sense, especially when you use her ultimate. And honestly, I've just really been enjoying using her. She's a hunt type character that does physical damage, so this is where most of your physical damage will come from, because ain't no way you're going to be using your physical MC. That shit is not it. So yeah guys, let's go ahead and talk about her skills now, then we'll talk about her light cones, traces, then relics, eidolons, and then we'll do a character showcase at the end. So yeah, let's go ahead and hop into her skills now. So her skills are actually pretty big and does a lot of damage. So her skill is going to be dealing physical damage to a single enemy. On top of that, she has a 33% chance to trigger sword stance on the final hit. If this does proc, she'll be dealing additional physical damage. And if the enemy is already inflicted with a weakness break, sword stance is guaranteed to trigger. So basically guys, if you don't know what sword stance is, just as a basic rundown of what it does, is when she enters this certain state, she'll be attacking the enemy more times, or technically hitting the enemy more times. So if you see her normal attack, she goes in with the 2 slices. For sword stance, what she does, she goes in for 2 attacks, and then also she does like this burst damage thing that hits like the enemy 4 or 5 times extra on top of the damage you're already getting. So it's just a pretty big damage increase when you actually have sword stance triggered. And yeah, you always want to be activating sword stance. Her kit really does play a lot off of weakness breaking the enemy. Now I'm not going to be building mine off of break effect. I've seen some people build their Sushang off of break effect, and while the break effect damage is really nice, you just really can't hit for any other damage when the enemy's broken, and also the damage that you're doing like normally to the enemy is just not that good as well. And I just think there's a lot of potential damage lost, considering you're only getting like really one big damage burst in every maybe 2 turns, depending on the team you're using, when you're actually weakness breaking the enemy. This is not even to mention when they're knocked down. If you have to use your skill again, that's also some lost damage there too. So guys, with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about her ultimate now. So guys, talking about her ultimate now, she's basically going to summon the big cock in to do the big damage, and this is also going to immediately advance her action by 100%, meaning whenever she uses her ultimate, she'll automatically have a turn right after that. And this is not like the thing that Seele does where it doesn't technically count as a turn. So if you do have like a Ting Yun buff on her, this is going to use another turn of your Ting Yun buff. You'd have to buff her up sooner than normal because you do have that turn coming in a lot quicker. On top of this guys, Sushang's attack is going to be increased by 21%, and using her skill has 2 extra chances to trigger sword stance for 2 turns. The sword stance triggered from these extra chances does deal 50% less of the original damage. So guys, this is something to keep in mind. If you're using the ultimate on the enemy and it's not really breaking their shield, then just keep in mind that sword stance, if it is triggered, you'll be dealing 50% less damage than normal if you were to activate it just off the normal ability alone. Now guys, finally hopping into her talent. When an enemy has their weakness broken on the field, Sushang's speed is increased by 16% for 2 turns. Alright guys, so as far as the speed buff goes here, it is pretty nice speed buff. It is a 16% increase for 2 turns, especially if you're against multiple enemies. You can keep breaking their shield. Like for example, if you have like 2 little smaller fly things, if you just keep having their shields broken, this means she's just gonna keep having that speed every single turn, which will really help her out if you're using the hunt light cone, which we'll talk about in a second. But yeah, this speed boost can definitely help out with the hunt light cone, like I said guys, and just getting her turns out faster in general. So guys, hopping into the light cones now, we're gonna talk about what light cones you should be using on her best in slot and everything like that. Now I do want to preface this with, my light cones for a hunt are not it. I do not have very many good light cones for hunt, so I'll be basing my damage all off of in the night light cone. I do have some damage numbers for the other 2 light cones, that being cruising in the Stellar Sea and also river flows in the spring. So yeah, like I said, I do have damage numbers for both of these as well, but this definitely gives you the most damage. So guys, talking about in the night first, why this is so good is it's going to be increasing the crit rate of Sushang, meaning she'll be able to hit crits a lot more often. The big thing here though is the speed. Sushang, I think, has one of the highest 2 base speeds in the game. So getting her speed up really high is actually a lot easier than some of the other characters in the game, because as far as what the light cone does is, because for every 10 speeds you have, it increases the wearer's basic attack and skill damage by 6%, and also increases the crit damage of their ultimate by 12%. This can stack up to 6 times, so as long as you're getting to around that 160 speed mark, you should be getting the max buff. Now guys, as we were talking about in her talents before, she does give a 16% speed increase which can also help you do more damage with this light cone. So yeah, just keep that in mind when you're building your relic set out there. As I was talking about before, cruising in the Stellar Sea can definitely be used on her. It's a free to play light cone. It's not that bad for her. It increases their crit rate and then increases the attack when the enemy is dead. You can also get this to S5 or Super Imposition 5 pretty easily as long as you're farming simulated universes every week. This is definitely not a bad light cone to have, because at S5 you're going to be increasing that crit rate by 16%, and then when the enemy is below 50% HP you're getting an extra 16%, which is a 32% crit rate increase. On top of that, you're getting that 40% damage buff for 2 turns whenever you defeat an enemy. So yeah, just overall, I mean, this works for her. I wouldn't say it's the best in slot. I would say in the night it's probably the best in slot for her. Second best in slot though, which is the one I wish they had on the banner other than Don Hung's stupid light cone. But yeah, swordplay is going to be the probably second best in slot for her, because it's going to increase their damage dealt by 8% up to 5 times if they keep attacking the same target. So this makes her a boss slayer. This makes her so good against bosses, guys. So at a base S1, you're getting a 40% increase to your damage dealt. This is going to be applying to both your ultimate and your skill. Also, one other thing I should mention with this is it scales off of the wearer's hits. So that means if you have sword stance enabled, you can get these 5 stacks pretty easily. This is not per turn like you might think. This is per hit. So whenever she goes in for an attack and she doesn't have sword stance activated, that's 2 hits. Now when she has sword stance activated, that's like 4 to 5 hits. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but you can potentially get this full buff off in 1 turn depending on if she triggers sword stance or not. But yeah, you can build this up really quick. So yeah, while there is a prerequisite for the damage, with her it is not hard at all to build this up. I would also say subscribe for more is pretty decent for her as well. It's going to be increasing the basic attack and skill damage by 24% and then increase it by an extra 24% when the energy reaches max level. If you have this, you could probably use this on her too. It'd probably work out pretty well. Me personally, I don't really like Sleep Like the Dead on her, because it does, while it does increase her crit damage by 30%, it doesn't really do much outside of increasing crit rate and crit damage. It doesn't overall increase the damage that she's doing. So with this, I mean, you could use this if you have it. I mean, I'm sure it would work out fine on her. Because you do get the 5-star stats and the skill is all right, but I do think overall in the night and also swordplay is a lot better for her. Arf, the best boy Peppy's here, and he's asking you to subscribe to the YouTube Can't See Me YouTube channel. Please hit that subscribe button to get more great and copium content like this. So guys, with that being said, let's go ahead and hop into the traces now. So as far as like leveling up the traces go, I'll give you the order of traces and nodes you should be leveling up. Let's go ahead and talk about the nodes first, and then we'll talk about the trace level order that you should be using. Alright guys, so what I would say is probably her best one is going to be Vanquisher. After using basic attack or skill, if the enemies are on the field with weakness break, Sushang's actions are advanced forward by 15%. This means you're able to use Sushang more often. That means you're going to be able to do more damage on the enemies and potentially break more shields on other enemies, especially say if they don't have their shield broken and someone else's shield is broken. This just helps her out a lot, especially when you're facing multiple enemies with multiple different debuffs that you can break their shield really quick with. This just helps out tremendously. Now, I would honestly recommend getting this one first, because this is probably the best one here. As far as the second best one here, guys, it's going to be Riposte. For every sword stance triggered, the damage dealt by sword stance is going to increase by 2% up to 10 times. Now guys, this is just really strong overall. I don't think I need to explain why, because at a max stack you're getting a 20% damage increase. More than likely, depending on how often you trigger sword stance and how fast the battle actually ends, then you might not get to that point. But I mean, if you're not getting to that point, then you're probably not in a hard battle anyways. But yeah, guys, this is a 20% just damage increase just from using her abilities, which is just really good. And finally will be Guileless, which is when the current HP is 50% or lower. It reduces the chance of being attacked by enemies. But honestly, Hunt and also Urdatian characters have the lowest aggro rates in the game. If you don't know what that is, you can check out OK Code's video on that. He did a pretty good video on like the aggro rates and stuff like that. So if you have a tank on the team, you're probably not getting targeted that much anyways, but this does help a little bit with getting less targeted if she is at that HP threshold. Now guys, let's talk about how you should be leveling up your skills. So guys, as far as your skill leveling, I would first probably level up the actual skill itself. Then I would start leveling up the ultimate, and then finally I'd level up a talent. And the reason I say to prioritize this last is because this does have a prerequisite before it actually works, and that's having the enemies broken first, whereas the other ones just give you the damage to actually break that shield. So I would just recommend leveling into the skill first, and then the ultimate, and then to this right here, because you'll honestly be using her skill a lot. This is the main thing you're going to be using on her, and I think that can honestly be said about any DPS character. The main thing you're using is her skill, so you want to level this one up first, unless they have an absolutely cracked talent, then I would just recommend leveling up the skill. Like in Jing Yuan's case, you would want to level up the talent because that's where the Lightning Lord comes from, but in this case, you want to level up the skill first. So with that being said, let's get to the juicy bit, the relics, boys. Let's go. Alright guys, now don't mind my set. These are just the best pieces that I currently have as far as the sets that I have in the game. I took best sets from almost all of my characters here to maximize her damage. So she can do a lot more damage on top of the damage she's doing right now, and she's honestly hitting pretty high damage without any sets at all. So as far as what my recommendations would be on gear, personally I would recommend a 4-piece champion of the Streetwise boxing, because what it's going to do is it increase that physical damage, which is her main thing she's going to be doing, is physical damage. And after the wearer attacks or is hit, their attack is increased by 5% for the rest of the battle. They can stack up to 5 times. Now that means you're getting a 25% attack increase on top of the 10% physical damage bonus that you're already getting. So yeah, overall this is just really, really good, and it's honestly pretty consistent across the board because the prerequisite is you getting hit or you doing the hitting, which that is going to happen every turn regardless. So this is just a really good set to have on her. So the second set would probably be pretty self-explanatory. It's probably going to be champion of the Streetwise boxing and 2-piece musketeer, 2 and 2 on both. And finally, another set that I see people run is 2-piece boxing and 2-piece break effect. I see a lot of people running this as well because she is focused on breaking the enemy shield, and she can actually break it pretty fast. So if you do want that extra break effect damage, you could run that too. Though I don't like it too much because you put all your eggs in one basket. That's how I feel on it anyways. So yeah, I don't personally run that. And honestly, if you guys are worried too much, you could run Talia Kingdom of Banditry, which is probably what I'm going to end up running. What it does is it increases the wearer's break effect by 16% when the wearer's speed reaches 145 or higher, which we will definitely be hitting. It's going to increase that break effect by an extra 20%. So you're just getting this buff off normally with having like your normal stats and stuff like that on top of like your planar ornaments. So personally, I do feel like this is better than Space Sealing Station because Space Sealing Station does give the wearer attack, and then when the speed reaches 120, it gives an extra 12% attack. And honestly, that break effect damage I think is going to do more in this case than a 24% attack increase would do. So yeah, I think it just scales a bit better this way. So let's go ahead and talk about the main stats you should probably be running on your Sushang. So as far as the boots, guys, I am running in the night, so I am for sure running speed boots because I personally want to maximize the amount of speed I can get on her to maximize the buff from the in the night light cone. Now guys, if you're not using the in the night light cone, or if you are using the in the night light cone, you don't necessarily have to run speed boots, because if you can get a speed of 138, you can still proc off the max buff of this light cone if the enemy shields are broken, because like I said, from her passive, she's getting a 16% increase to her speed, which will put you right at 160 speed. So as far as like mid-maxing your stuff, you could technically not run speed boots here, have at least 138 speed and get that max buff off. But me personally, I run the speed boots because I can't personally hit that right now. And it's honestly a pretty high number to meet regardless, even with our high speed. Another option you could run for the boots would just be a full attack percent boot, pretty standard for DPS units. Hopping into the actual chest plate now, you could either run crit rate or crit damage. I'm running crit damage because I have this at plus 12 already, and I'm using this on my Jing Yuan right now. But for the sake of this video, I just threw it on her to get some extra damage out. But yeah, I personally run crit damage. I like the crit damage. The in the night light cone does give me some extra crit rate. But even still, you want to be building in the crit rate and the substat. So yeah, I do run this here. As far as the chain goes, I'm just running attack percentage here. I do see people running break effect here, though I just don't like break effect at the top here, so I am running attack percentage instead. I just like the attack percentage better than the break effect here. If you do really want to run break effect, you can run Kingdom of the Banditry, which will, like I said, increase that break effect. I got lucky enough to pull a break effect one on top of this, so maybe I'll try running this whenever I get a bottom piece for it, and I'll add a little update in the comments to like what might be better for her. But as of right now, I think attack's probably just the best on her here. Now, as far as the planet ornament goes, guys, you're just gonna be running honestly physical damage boost. I don't have a physical damage boost one, so we're running attack for now. It does have some pretty cracked stats. If you can see, it has crit rate, crit damage, even though we didn't roll too much into it. But we do have crit rate, crit damage. But yeah, best in slot here is going to be a physical damage boost. Now guys, as far as like the substats go and stuff like that, I mean, it's pretty normalized across all the DPS units of what you want to run as far as substats. Of course, you want crit rate, you want crit damage, you want attack percentage, you want speed, and honestly, sprecking into some break effect here will not hurt you at all. It'll honestly increase the damage by a lot. I still don't recommend running a full break effect set on Sushang just because I think you get diminishing returns on all the other hits you're doing outside of that. I mean, I could be wrong on this, but I mean, from what I've tested, I think that the attack is the best way to go, and just go for the break effect in the substats, just build it up from there. But yeah, guys, that's gonna do it as far as the relic set goes, guys. Let's go ahead and talk about our eidolons now. Alright, guys, so E1 I think is for sure her strongest eidolon, because what it does is after using a skill against a weakness broken enemy, it regenerates 1 skill point, meaning if the enemy is weakness broken and you use a skill on them, you're just getting the skill for free. This just really helps with skill economy, so you don't even have to necessarily attack the boss with her. If you're attacking side units that are weakness broken, you could potentially be killing those enemies, getting a skill point back, and also charging her ult up at the same time. This is just super good. I really do think this is her best eidolon. E2 is going to be alright. After triggering sword stance, the damage taken by Sushang is reduced by 20%. This one's just alright. I mean, she doesn't normally get hit anyways, but it does help when she does get hit, so I mean, there's that. E4 is also pretty clutch as well. It's going to be increasing her break effect by 40%, meaning whenever she breaks that enemy shield, she's going to be doing more damage on top of that, so E4 is also really strong to have. E6 is also really, really nice, but I don't think it's necessary because the talent already does boost it up a lot. Now, I will say it does help you out as far as building out your character because you don't have to put as much speed into him because you're getting this extra speed from the passive, because it allows you to stack up that speed boost from the talent 2 times. Meaning at base speed without anything on it, you're getting an extra 34 speed from this passive stacking twice. That means your base speed without any speed stat at all is going to be 141, which is just kind of crazy. This works really well. This is a really good one to have. This just lets you have more wiggle room as far as like building the relics out and stuff like that, but still I think E1 is probably the best one to have. Alright guys, so the team that I like to use her in the best is probably this team right here with Japar, Ting Yuan, Jing Yuan, and Sushang. I like to use this team a lot with her. This team doesn't really require a healer because you have Japar on the team. Now, things would definitely have to change if you don't have Japard. So for a team like this, you could technically run Fire, MC, Natasha, Ting Yuan, and Sushang, and this also works pretty well. Do keep in mind, though, guys, you don't really have much AoE damage here. So when you're facing targets that summon a lot of enemies in, then this is not going to really work too well. You want an AoE damage dealer. In that case, you could maybe switch out Ting Yuan for like Serval or something like that for some extra AoE damage, or you could swap out Natasha for it if you feel confident that you won't die throughout the match and you're going to face tank everything with basically Fire, MC, and Ting Yuan. Another cool combo you could run too is by having Clara on the team. If you have Clara, you could use Clara, Ting Yuan, Natasha, and Sushang, and this is honestly still a pretty good combo. Or you could run Bailu too instead of Natasha, really just up to you in that case. Alright guys, so as far as the showcase we're going to be using for Sushang, we're using Japar, Natasha, Ting Yuan, and Sushang here. We're going to go ahead and proc the ult off on Sushang here to go ahead and get that ulti charged up a bit more. She does have that speed increase like I said before because the enemy shields are broken here, so we're going to hop that off here. This is kind of where she acts like a mini Seela as well because she's going to go in with her Pinam, yep, that thing right there. We won't say the full word, but yeah, you know what I mean. She's going to go to that. She does her little extra sword stance damage, 3,000 damage. Not too big because we didn't have the Ting Yuan buff off, but yeah, we're going to go ahead and buff her off here, and yeah, we're just going to let this thing rip. Alright, time to check out this shield break damage here. Let's go. 7k, 10k damage. Let's go off a shield break. Easy clap there. Easy clap there. What can I say? Alright, now this is where it gets sussy with E1 out here, guys. We're going to go ahead and hit the ability, and we get 5k, an extra 4k from the bleed there, and then we're getting the extra energy back there, or the extra skill point back there. Hey, let's go. Alright, guys, we're going to go ahead and use the Rise cock again to see how much damage we're going to do. We have the speed buff up. 2,000. Whoa, that was really low, actually. Holy shit. 2,000. Well, that damage is actually super fucking low. Also, guys, taking a look here, we already have 6 buffs or a post up, so that means she's already getting a 12% damage increase. Let's go. Alright, guys, we're gonna go ahead and hit the ult off here to kind of show what the break damage is from the ult here. Let's just see it. 14,000 damage from the ulti. Let's go. I mean, yeah, it's not as strong as Seela. What can you expect? I don't think anyone expects her to be as strong as Seela. Her skill attack there just did 10,000 damage against the enemy. Yeah, she's shredding this boss, dude. She is shredding this guy. This is also a Memory of Chaos. I think this is stage 3 of Memory of Chaos. Not stage 4 yet. Yeah, this is stage 3 of Memory of Chaos. So yeah, we're destroying him. Another 6,000 damage there. Easy peasy. And she is doing dot damage as well from the bleed, which is really nice. So we're getting the extra dot damage off every turn. So yeah, having a little bit of extra break effect there does help because it does affect the DOT damage that she's doing. And they like that she killed the enemy. Alright guys, that's going to do it for our Sushang build guide. If you guys want to see any more build guides on the channel, just let me know what you want to see. My next build guide I have planned is going to be Young Ching. I've been building him up slowly but surely. And I'm thinking we're going to do a build guide on March 7th as well. Because I think March 7th could be a really good addition to this team here with Ting Yuan. So yeah, I do want to try that out as well with her. So yeah, guys, stay tuned for that. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Sorry for the scuffness in the middle of the video. If you guys heard like background talking or something like that, I forgot I had someone's stream unmuted. The volume was so low on my end, I really couldn't hear it. But when I saw like my little meter going on OBS, I was like, oh, fart. So yeah, that's gonna do it for today's video. Remember to subscribe if you liked the video. If you didn't like it, leave a dislike and a comment, please, so we can discuss it in the comments below. I love debating in the comments. Anyways, guys, that's gonna do it for today's video. Hope everyone enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Later. Bye bye.